On today's podcast, we have a really awesome guest. I've met him once in person, and then I've watched a ton of stuff online. Super informative, super funny. Today we have Lee Hoy, and he is a OM System Ambassador, a workshop instructor for Wildside Nature Tours, a senior photography workshop instructor. He leads workshops for Precision Camera and Video. So if you all listen to Wild and Exposed, we were sponsored by Precision Camera 2. So that's actually where I met Lee. And then you're also a contributing author for the Journal of Wildlife Photography. And that is just like a little small portion of what you do. Because if you look online and you look up Lee Hoy, you see like miles of stuff. Welcome, Lee.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here. Yeah, it's good to be here. Yeah, I work a lot. That's true.
But that's part of the fun, right? Because we all do this job for a living, but we do it because it's fun. It's not like work, right?
You know, I think for me, the grandest thing about being a professional nature photography is that you do truly work your ass to the bone, but it is an absolute delight and frankly, a privilege to get to do that. So I've always had a great work ethic. And for some parts of my careers in the past, I was putting into things that just bored the crap out of me, to be honest. So now to get to work diligently, you know, I love to teach. I love to share. I'm enthralled. I'm a guy that I come off as probably a hard ass most of the time, but I've been moved to tears in the field, you know. So for me to get to share that with people when most of my life I never dreamed I'd get to do it. I mean, I'm going back to the Galapagos, I think for the 7th time, you know, this year. That's beyond blessed. That is, a level of gratitude that you cannot take for granted. And the instant you start taking it for granted, you'll be worthless as a nature photographer, as a workshop instructor, a YouTuber, whatever it might be, right?
Well, I think anybody that takes one of your workshops kind of pulls that out of the workshop. I think you give off that kind of information indirectly. You know, people don't ask for it, but I think it comes across. And yeah, you just got to appreciate it. So I guess start from the get-go. How did you get into photography? Because that would just be a kind of a break the ice kind of thing.
Yeah. You know, so it's really funny. Is this just audio and or video?
Both.
Okay, hold on. I got something I want to show you. This is so cool. This is so cool. I looked for years, okay, to find this. I could not remember the name, but when I was like 6 or 7, my parents bought me, check this out, the Ready Ranger telephoto camera gun.
Nice.
This is in the box, all the stuff except the film, and I cannot find the pictures. I still have them somewhere that I actually took with this at Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge in Oklahoma. My parents were teachers, so we didn't have funds for big, elaborate trips. We would go to wildlife refuges and zoos. And from a time I was as young as I can remember, I loved wildlife. I mean, I was the kid that when I went to the zoo, I'd get pissed if everybody hurried off and I couldn't finish reading the sign. That was back when signs actually had information. I was at the Fort Worth Zoo probably 15 years ago or so, and the sign said, "I am a rhino, I eat grass." And I thought, yeah, that's about right for where we're at as a society. But, you know, at age 9 or 10, I asked for a copy of the Audubon Encyclopedia of Animal Life, and I read it. Right. So I was the 10-year-old that knew what a pangolin was, or an eye, or a medusa in the ocean. I mean, all these cool things. And so I had that. Of course, then, you know, that lasted forever long. My mom and dad bought me some film. But at age 16, my mom had a Canon AE1 with a broken meter. And I asked her if I could use it. And I bought John Shaw's book, you know, the Nature Photographer's, I think, Field Guide to Nature Photography. I can't remember the title right now. And it's so cool. I just had a phone call with him the other day. I found out through a mutual friend, he's been listening or watching some of my YouTube videos, and I will get to interview the guy who basically was my inspiration for really getting into this. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's awesome.
So I started reading that book. And what stood out at me most, and now does, was the Sunny F16 rule. In fact, just sometime last year or so, I actually got the Sunny F16, partly cloudy F11 tattooed on my forearm, just as a reminder of what I once had to do. Again, the Canon A1 had a broken meter, so I had no help or assistance. And I remember going to Wichita Mountains. I'd get up early, because I read about golden hour, and I'd be sitting there with some Kodachrome film, and I'd be all right. Now, I've got front light on this Bison. So if I'm at, if I'm at 1/400th of a second at f/16, ISO 400, and I want to go to f/8, okay, now I got to be at 1/800th of a second, so man, you do that for a while, and manual mode's easy as peasy with an OM system with live highlight alerts. I mean, crap, I don't even have to think about exposure. I just think about the creative side of it, right?
Right.
And for those folks wondering, the best feature on the OM system, I think, is the live highlight alerts. No other camera offers it to the level they do. Sony has the zebra pattern, but you don't see the zebra pattern on small spots in an image. So I think that's where we excel above all other brands. But I mean, I really had a passion, and then doing that got me into birding. And I didn't know anything about Audubon groups, so I learned everything on my own, right? I mean, and I lived in Oklahoma and Texas, and then I moved to Rapid City, South Dakota. And I mean, I remember going out in the field and just studying. It took me like 15 minutes to identify a house finch using my field guide. But what that did was not having other people around to help me made me better. It was really one of the best things that happened to me. I mean, I still have a powerful image. I grew up in Oklahoma around a lot of Native Americans. And we went to powwows all the time. And I'll never forget driving through Badlands National Park one April, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw something, looked, and it was sharp-tailed grouse on the lek. And I'm like, I recognize that dance from powwows, Took some pictures, which were crappy compared to what I do now, right? And boy, it just built up this, even increased my passion to be out all the time. When I moved from South Dakota, my ex-wife said, the Badlands are going to miss you. And they did, and I do. And what was awesome? It just built my love for nature, unfortunately. And then I ended up getting a Canon 630 film camera with the first L lens, the 100 to 300 f, I believe it was 4.5, 5.6 L that did a little like 25.25 macro, right? And I used that. I had that thing for 20 something years. But what happened was I got so into birding, I set my camera down. And because I was just worried about checking. I mean, just became a collector of species, basically. Well, one day, a little later in life, I was sitting there. I was like, "Oh God, I've been on the Pribilof Islands, and I've had an Arctic fox sitting a foot from me, and I had musk." And I started thinking about all these amazing things I'd seen because I've birded in all 50 states and 7 Canadian provinces, And I was like, "Oh God, I should have taken some pictures," And I decided to pick it back up, and digital was coming out. And I couldn't afford much at the time because of my career. So I bought a Canon T2i Rebel and some Sigma lenses. And I had a friend who was a professional photographer. I've always known a lot of really high-level ornithologists and herpetologists and entomologists. I've been very blessed to have some really, knowledgeable, great people in my life that have surrounded me with nature. And he started teaching me about dragonfly and damselfly photography. I went through a divorce, had to sell all my gear, had to buy it back. And that was all I really had the money to do, limping along in life for a little while. And man, I was really like, this is where my passion's been all my life. And looking back, there were times I was really frustrated that I didn't get to do this when I was younger. Other people had other plans for my life. But I also realized that had I started out at a young age doing this, I probably would be such a difficult, arrogant ass to deal with because I don't think I'd have any gratitude, Yeah. But because I know how fortunate I am to be here and to start doing this professionally at age 49 or 50. I mean, not many people do that. That's, not the smartest of business moves in life, right? And I said, no, this is it, man. I'm going to roll the dice. And at that time, I started Big Bend birding and photo tours, and I didn't have much extra change in my pocket, man. Went to a festival, and I put basically the last bit of money I had into marketing to start Big Bend birding and photo tours. And I ended up meeting Kevin Laughlin, owner of Wildside Nature Tours. Already long story, cutting it short. And he and I became like brothers, loved traveling together, travel well together, loved shooting together. And, doors just opened for me to become take a bigger and bigger role in Wildside. And, 7 trips to Galapagos and almost every continent so far and an OM system ambassador role. moving from Canon OM. It's been an incredible journey, and I've been really delighted with the path that I've been on. I'm one of those. I understand a lot of people would love to have that part of my life. No, certainly not my looks, but that part of my life, I think they'd love to have. So that's how I got to you today. That's why we're sitting here today. So I love that story. I'm always appreciative and grateful for the opportunities to share it.
Well, I love it too. I mean, there's so many similarities with my starting out too. I had the John Shaw book, and he lives or he
Yeah,
used to live right down the road in Colorado Springs. I don't know if he still is in Colorado Springs, and then I also started with NAE1.
I'll be darned. Oh, that's
Yep,
cool. That's very
back in
cool.
the day. And there's so many things to unpack out of that conversation that I don't know where to start. But the photo tours, is that when you started the Big Bend thing, then it morphed into the wild side?
Well, no, Wildside's been in existence for 30 years. He started out in Belize over 30 years ago. What the reason I came, so my first trip out of high school, or I think I was a junior, between my junior and senior year, my grandparents were amazing. They loved to travel by vehicle, and they would go all over. And my brother was a homebody and I was a wanderer, but I didn't have the money to wander. And I asked my grandparents to take me to Big Bend National Park. So they did, and I knew right away I wanted to live out here. But the lady I was dating at the time, who became my ex, she, in 30 something years of being together, she would never come out here one time. And Big Bend, if you've never been, there's no other place like it. I mean, I hear people go, "Oh, they have such great sunsets." I'm like, that sunset sucks compared to West Texas, man. I mean, desert mountains, Colorado's pretty, but your sunsets are a lot harder because you got so many trees, right? The desert mountains just kick butt when it comes to scenery and sunsets and stuff. And I think I brought 36 rolls of film that first Big Bend trip, and I doubt I have a single shot that would be worth a crap for that whole trip. I mean, I just learned so much more since. But I fell in love with this place, and I wanted to live out here forever. Met another woman, and before we married, I brought her to Big Bend because she didn't know it. But if she said, "Oh, I don't really like it," that would have been the end of it, right? I'd been like, "Not doing this again. You're out of here." But the first time we crested the hill, coming from Lajitas to where you could see the Chisos Mountains, she started tearing up, and I said, "All right, you might be a keeper." And because I got to do the vegetation map with the professor when I was in college. I've been on every trail, got paid to go on every trail and every road to do that map, and I've explored that place from one end to the other, and I loved it. But when you look at photo guides and birding guides at the time, there wasn't a single one. Okay. And you search on Grand Teton or where else, there's tons of guides.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's an opportunity, and almost nobody believed it would be a go. And I mean, now, like, in birding tours from mid-March through the end of May, I could make enough to, not live great on, but make a decent living. And the problem was, I mean, I was working every single day. I wouldn't get to see family, um, you know, incredibly long days. And I'll be honest, I got a little tired of birding. I got tired of treating animals as a collector's item, And I'm not saying that birding's wrong or keeping a list is wrong. I'm just saying I grew wearisome of it. And that doesn't mean it's wrong or bad. That just means what happened for me, right? And the superintendent at the time was just a complete jackass. And I hope he's listening. No, he won't be. He's oh God, yeah. I'm gonna have to
Woo-saw.
and it wore me out. Yeah. The bureaucratic process of trying to get a permit and make a living doing this, it's just brutal. And unfortunately, Big Bend was one of the most difficult of the staff to deal with in a lot of ways. Tried having a meeting with them, that didn't go well. And I just say things the way they are to me. And a lot of people, guess what? If you're on a dating site and all the ladies say, "I just want somebody who's honest." No, they don't. They don't want somebody that's honest. They want you to lie like a dog. How do I look in this dress? Well, don't be honest. That's all I'll say. But I am. That's just the way I'm wired, right? So it was really an interesting path because I was doing Big Bend birding photo tours and Wildside. But I really saw a big need at Wildside. I mean, Kevin was doing an unbelievable amount of work. And I approached him and said, hey, if you can replace, over here as a salary, and then, when I do workshops or whatever, do a day rate kind of thing. Yeah, let's take a look at that. And, I had no intention of working for anybody else. I was tired of working for idiots. I worked in government, so say no more, right? And I said, that's it. I'm not having another boss. I'm doing things my way. And then I saw how Kevin ran that place like a family, and I was like, okay, this is different. This is very different. And it really, and every guy I met, I was like, God Almighty, they're awesome, man. They're incredible people. And usually you go somewhere and you're like, okay, this one's kind of a loser. Now, what could be me? Maybe I'm the one. But the fact is, as you really get into understanding Wildside, I've never seen him care about the bottom line in my life, even when I think he should. Never seen Wildside worry about how much money he's making. It's always about taking care of the guides, the Central, the South American guides. It's, during COVID, he was the only guide, the only company I know who took out a loan to pay guides in other countries because he knew they were having a hard time. And I think that says everything you need to know about the guy, right? And I was like, no, I can do this. This will be a blessing. And it has been. And yeah, I worked hard to build Big Bend Birding and Photo Tours up, but it had run its course. I'm happy and I'm very content with where I'm at. And you know what? It's given me the privilege, like I'm now doing OM system only workshops. Do y'all know any other photography instructors that have the balls to do a workshop that's one system only?
Yeah.
Do y'all know any? I'm
That's
curious.
cool.
Do y'all know anybody that does that?
No, I don't.
I don't.
know? I'm just stupid enough to try those kind of things. I just ran my first one in Florida the other day, and so I'm able to experiment. Man, we've created Wildside Weekenders. Now we're going to do 1 day workshops, and he's if I come to him and say, "Hey, man, I got an idea," he's like, "Let's roll, brother. Let's roll."
That's cool.
So that's been a big thing.
Well, I think
That's
the
really
thing
cool.
with that, I was watching some of your stuff earlier, and you were talking about I'm the guy who, when I buy a new camera, I read the manual. And that's the kind of person you want to do an OM workshop with, right? Because you know that camera upside down and backwards and forwards. And when we met in person and we went to look at that system, if they'd have had the camera and the lens that I wanted that day, I would have bought that thing because you
Yeah,
had
that's right.
me totally convinced that that is the camera to be using. And I still agree with that, although I do more
Yeah,
videos, so it doesn't really work. But I think your knowledge is what, if you're shooting that system, there's no better person to go with. I mean, you're going to learn
well,
so
thank you.
much from you over anybody else. And that's what allows you to get the good picture, right?
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Like I'm OCD and I'm a control freak because of things that happened in my past, right? I'm a skeptic, even though I believe, my parents were educators, my grandfather was a professor, so I'm all about learning. Being a lifelong learner is the best way to be the best photographer and the best photo workshop leader. Every now and then someone will come up and say, "Do you do any teaching in your workshops?" And I'll say, "Well, of course." And I'll say, like, "Well, I don't need any." I think, all right, already you'd be a boring ass client. Don't want you. Two, I guarantee you can learn something. If you truly think you can't, go away. And then they show you their photography and like, buddy, you probably need this worse than anybody, right? So that's a fact. Is no matter how long I've been doing this, and no matter how much I consume, and I read the manual at least 3 or 4 times through for all of my new cameras. Every camera I've owned, I've read that. Is it fun? Not always, but you know what? The parts that are most important, here's a hint, are the footnotes, right? And I'm going to pick on Nikon folks for a minute. Nikon finally got kind of a pro capture like OM Systems had for years. I live and they go, "Do you know it'll do this?" I'm like, "I've been doing that for years, dude. Welcome." And they'll say, "Well, yeah, we can do that." And I go, "Yeah, in JPEG." Well, yeah. See, that's the footnotes. That's the footnotes. Yeah, but I can do it in RAW. See, you didn't read the footnotes, brother, before you bought the camera. All you did was listen to the marketing hype, right?
Right.
Right? It's like marrying someone just for their looks, I mean, like, yeah, well, you didn't know all the footnotes to this one. So for me, because so often people get frustrated in the field because they don't understand the limitations or the advantages of certain features. For example, my favorite drive mode is SH2. That's 50 frames per second, continuous autofocus, continuous metering if you needed it, right? And and I know that at 50 frames per second, I'm getting raw images. I love that, man, because I get pictures that other people shooting right next to me don't, because they're at 25 or 30. And sometimes a grimace on a wolf face. You know, I was there for the bison wolf hunt in Yellowstone this winter. We were the first snow coach to stop, and we were the last one to leave for the day. Okay. I mean, I got grimaces on some of the faces. I haven't seen anybody else share that shot because it's that quick of a moment. And I took almost 18,000 images that day. And I had people go, "Oh, that's a lot. How many more wolf bison hunts within 75 yards do you think you're going to see?"
Right.
You know, like, what the hell? Like this. Well, yeah, nobody goes. There's no bonus points for brevity in capturing a great image.
Right.
You know, nobody says, "Well, I got this image in 10 clicks." Who cares? Who cares if it's 10 clicks or 1,000? If you caught that one moment, rock on, baby, right?
100% agree. Go ahead.
You had 4 trips out there, right? Or was it 3 trips? Because you and I were talking.
No, I did 4.
Okay.
I did 4. The first one was a group, a British group. They were more wildlife watchers, so I didn't get to take as many pictures.
Okay.
But yeah, I did 4, which if I ever do that again, you guys kick me in the nuts because that was way too much. It was way too much. I was, when you're staring at the snow all day looking for wildlife.
Right. Yeah.
It's bright, man. You're like, there's not enough 5-hour extra energy drinks in this world to keep it going. You know, every trip was amazing. That's the thing about Yellowstone and why I did have I am going to have a hard time not doing that many, but I don't use the word magical a lot because there can be a lot of destinations that are really fun and nice and good, but the word magical needs to be used at least in my vocabulary and in my world, limited, right? If everything's magical, then nothing's great.
Right.
But Yellowstone Winter for me is a magical experience, and it proved that again this year. I had some phenomenal co-leaders with me, like Lisa Langell, who's an amazing photographer, Don Wilson, former president of NAMPA, and Kyle Moon, who's a new guy that's going to be leading for Wildside. You know, it was really an awesome experience, and I did have some phenomenal moments and images that come out of it. But 4 weeks is a lot, man. When you're leading people, that was a lot. So yeah, it was cool, man.
I was going to say, actually, I met Lisa Langell up here probably when I was just first getting into photography, and we've kind of kept in touch throughout the years, where I haven't talked to her in a little while, but maybe a little bit of a connection, which is cool.
She is as fine a workshop leader, I think, as you'll encounter. I mean, you won't find anybody whose clients adore more. Yep. She has, I think, one of the most creative brains in photography. She can see things that just other people don't. She's a great teacher. I mean, we laugh our butts off when we're together. Oh my gosh, we have a great time. I mean, she's like a sister, and her husband Mason's just an awesome man as well. And listen, if you've never taken an online class, a workshop, if you've never been in Lisa Langell's presence, I highly recommend it. I mean, she's a Tamron. I think they call it master imager, maybe. Yeah. She is, first class kind of person. You know, if I would say there's a workshop leader besides Kevin that I go, I look up to them, it's certainly Lisa Langell would be on that list of people I admire highly.
A loving, passionate, inspired person. So I was thinking maybe you could talk a little bit about kind of the tour life as a guide. It's not something that I'm experienced with, kind of what maybe the build up to these tours are, what kind of things that you think about taking with you, kind of what your role is in that process.
You know, I had to laugh one time. My wife said that, well, your job's like being on vacation. I'm like, well, if you think herding 22 seniors through the Peru airport at 2:30 in the morning to catch a flight to Iquitos to get on a riverboat is like vacation, then sure, it's very much like being on vacation. It is way more exhausting physically, mentally, emotionally, and intellectually than I ever dreamed possible. But it is also incredibly rewarding. So there's this fine balance between what appears to be a glamorous life, and in some ways certainly is, right? But also just a brutal work schedule to make a living at this. I don't have the name yet like some photographers where I just list a tour and they all flock to me. I mean, I'm the kind of person, I'm probably either one you absolutely love or you absolutely hate. I don't know that there's a lot of middle ground with me because of how I'm wired. I'm a libertarian, so I just seem to piss off people on both sides because I'll call bullcrap on either political party or whatever. But the reality for me is being a workshop leader, to give you an idea. So this year, My home's here in the Davis Mountains of West Texas, and partially off grid, and need 4-wheel drive to get here. And I love being up here, but this is only, I think, the 12th day I've been home. Okay. My wife lives in an apartment in Georgetown, and I was there for a couple of days so far this year. I left home on January 2nd, and I think I returned back on February 14th or something. No, it would have been the 11th, because we did get to go out for Valentine's Day. But that was just for Yellowstone, right? And then turn right around and go back for Peru, come home, turn around a day later and go to Florida. So we also keep our group sizes small. So, we're not making a ton off of a trip. Some of the more well-known, and I'm not begrudging anybody, some more well-known photographers might take 12 people on a workshop. So the amount of money they're going to make in a particular workshop is going to be a lot more. But I don't personally derive great pleasure. I can handle 12 people, no problem, right? That's not the problem for me. But like my own system only, the boat we were using, I could take 3 people. So you have to do it quite a bit to make a living. And looking at the price of everything, inflation, and how everything's going, how long is this going to be affordable for a large percentage of people? So I've been looking at diversifying. That's why I really decided to ramp up my YouTube. I do an OM system mentorship program where I take 12 people through about a 9-month process. It costs just a little less than one workshop. So when I say I work from the time I get up, time I go to bed, that is true almost every day out of the year, but as Mike said earlier, for me, I do enjoy it. And so I do have a hard time sitting still, stopping, relaxing. Because I've been working on, I think I'm now on 5 YouTube videos that I've fully edited. And in the last week and a half, and I've got 2 I'm working on right now, because I'm going to be in Cuba and Patagonia for all of April, and then a hiking trip in Big Bend, and then back to Ohio. So I don't have time to just sit around and fiddle fart and do that kind of stuff. So, there's a lot of preparation. How do you go from Cuba directly to Patagonia and pack for that? I've had to do research on where I can leave a suitcase in the Miami airport, and there's just always something that needs to be done. There's always marketing. The thing I hate about being a workshop leader is I call it the looming demand of social media. If I were a workshop leader, I would be off social media yesterday, or just keep it to a very small group of people. Or basically what I do is I just block, the nonsense that I don't want to see on there. But that is the one thing I don't like is if you're not out there every day, you get penalized by Instagram and Facebook. I mean, I'd love to just, Tanya Harding, Mark Zuckerberg, love to just Tanya Harding him a couple of times. Really
I don't think everyone's going to get that one, though. That reference.
That's okay. I know. You got to be an old person. Google it, young people. You're on the phone anyways, for God's sake.
They're going to be like, who's Tanya Harding?
Yeah. That's all right. They can Google it. Learn something today besides watching Kim Kardashian's butt shake, all right? Or watch a dance video, whatever it is that they're occupied with today, or who Taylor Swift is dating, all the important things in life. So when it comes to leading a workshop, you got to stay in communication with people. You got to have your name, your face, your images. You're always looking at the competitive side of it, right? So it isn't this glamorous life in the sense of, wow, you're well known. Look, don't get me wrong, man. It was awesome on one of my Yellowstone at the Bison Wolf Hunt Yellowstone. I had 6 people walk up and say, "Hey, man, I'm really enjoying your YouTube channel." I was like, "Dang, all right, that's kind of cool. That's really cool." And several of them were OM system photographers, but I'm not like some of the other photographers where I just list a trip and everybody just is fighting each other to get on it. And I hope to eventually get there, and then I'll be able to probably work a little less. I'm not going to lie, man. I work hard. I work at building my knowledge and my database of information to do that because I got started late, and I think that's a key thing is but I like teaching so much. Like photo contests, I've probably entered 6 in my life. Most of them were Nampa. I don't enter contests. I submit to Texas Parks and Wildlife magazine, and that's about it. And I haven't submitted in a while because I'm too busy. I know that my time on this earth is limited, right? And I want to have my foot in the dirt every day as much as possible, enjoying all the things as a kid I dreamed of getting to enjoy and see. And even more importantly, sharing that with others and helping them capture that moment in an image that will stick with them, hopefully till the day they die. That for me is what it's all about.
Can you think of some fun stories where you're able to help somebody like either figure out their camera or capture something that was just so amazing
Yeah.
that sticks with you?
Yeah, one thing that was pretty cool on this my first OM system workshop here in Florida. We went out to where the ospreys were nesting on a lake out there in a boat, and we're shooting the ospreys. And I have a client. She's got a really strong. She was from Czechoslovakia, very strong, beautiful Czech accent, and she's a veterinarian, lives up in the Northeast. And one of my favorite kind of compliments in terms of categories is after a few days she looked at me and she said, and she had the newest OM1 Mark II and the 154. I mean, she had the top of line gear, and she goes, "I've never in my life taken pictures like that." You're like, that summarizes what it's all about, right?
Yep.
Because we sat down going through the menu. I sat down teaching her all the settings, and the reality is, and God, I'm going to get on a soapbox, boy, and I'm going to hurt some feelings. I don't care. I'm from West Texas, but Americans are so freaking lazy. They want instant success, right?
Yep.
And we see that through AI, and we see it through people lying about composites. And I busted chops on Friends of Big Bend National Park Facebook group the other day. I finally couldn't take it. Like, night sky photographers, my God, what the hell is wrong with some of y'all? This guy did a sun rising in Santa Elena Canyon with the Milky Way. And I'm like, in my 40 years of being out in Big Bend National Park, I've never been able to see the sunrise of the Milky Way at the same time. That is amazing. And nobody else picked up on it. It was bull crap, right? And I sent him a direct message because, by the way, if you want to work for Wildside and you're a name that I associate without truth and captioning, I'm not even returning your call or your email. You're a lying POS, right? I have no use for it, man. I don't care how great your Photoshop skills are. Just be honest about it. That's all. You don't diminish your work when you're honest in your caption, but the instant you lie, you lose all my respect. And you may go, I don't care if I have leads respect. No, but if you contact us to be a workshop leader for Wildside, and I know that, I am not even calling you back. Not even calling you back. Don't care. Don't care how good your skills are. Don't care how good your images are. Not interested. God, see, I told you I was going to get on my soapbox about it. Sky replacements with birds. You don't understand light and field of view, so quit trying it. You're not good at it. It's not good. It doesn't work. All right. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Here, let's bring it back down to earth. Right. Golly, I get on my little soapboxes. It's a very interesting time room because Americans, they want that instant success, but you have to pay the price, right? If you want to master anything, you have to pay the price. I'm not an NBA fan, but I was always interested in the dialogue with Kobe and Shaq for some reason, right? And you hear Kobe say, if Shaq had half of my work ethic, he'd have been a way better ball player than I am. And Shaq will admit that today too, right? And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Shaq, for the kind of person he is. And I really just enjoy listening to his mindset and his philosophy on life. And when you come to photography, if you don't want to put in the time and the effort to learn and master your craft, what's the point? Are you just going for likes? You know what I always remind everybody is Kim Kardashian's butt will always have more likes than any of our images. You will never get as many fans. You'll never have as much success with your images as her butt does. Think about that. That should put it in perspective. I mean, the image I sold for the most money ever got 17 likes on Facebook. What if I gauged the quality of my images based on likes or comments? For some reason I don't tend to get a lot of comments on my pages. That's okay. Some photographers get a lot more. I don't take that personally. You know, it's okay. I don't gauge who I am, the quality of my images, or what I'm doing based on that. That's the silliest thing ever. A lot of the things I enjoy photographing the most get the fewest likes because they're maybe toads where I'm laying in the ground. I'm getting thorns from palm trees dug deep in my knee. And I know what it took to get it, but toads aren't as popular as pretty birds or whatever, you know? So shoot, you know, when it comes to learning your craft, don't be afraid of failure, man. Failure is how you get better. You don't get better from your successes. You get better from your failures, right? So as I'm out teaching, I'm always encouraging people, shoot, you know, I say all the time, well, there's some turkey vultures. Those are the best practice on nailing exposures of bird in flight. And I'll see someone take 8 pictures, then quit. And I'm like, they are never going to get better. They are never going to get better because they think they want to practice on a sexy warbler. How much harder is it to get a warbler in flight than it is a turkey vulture, man?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I get small birds in flight. You can see images of Darwin's finches that I grab while they're in flight. But I hunted growing up. I played video games for 40-something years. I have ridiculous reflexes. You're probably not going to hop out and do that with me after a week, right? That's why the mastering bird in flight photography workshops are in places with bigger birds. Like I'm going to do with Eric Rock as an OM System ambassador, and he does rock, man. He's like my brother. And we're going to do mastering birds in flight, OM only, in Alaska in 2025. Do the Pribilofs and Seward and Anchorage. Man, yeah, you come out there, master your gear, but put it through the paces. You know, put it through the paces. Be willing to pay the price of critiques, maybe getting your feelings hurt. You know, one time I was judging the St. Louis Camera Club competition, and I had one image that popped up, and I was like, well, I only have 2 words to say on this one: dumpster fire. I mean, you know, if you want attaboys, show your grandmother, right? Or your grandkids. They'll give you attaboys. But if you want to learn, listen to people that have been further down the road than you, right? Ask the tough questions and be willing to take feedback and criticism in a way that'll help you get better. But man, this whole mindset of you think you're going to be nailing great shots immediately without paying the price, I think that's frustrating. So when I'm out on a workshop, I look for people. I had a lady with a bridge camera in the Amazon. I think this was 2 years ago. And man, she would, and 99% of clients don't ask enough questions, plain and simple. And I say this at the beginning of every workshop: you're not going to ask enough questions, and you paid for this, right? And also, I know there's a certain amount of information the brain can retain, but this lady had a bridge, and she was listening. I'd be like, dude, you're nailing it. And I would tell everybody else with their much more expensive gear, she's listening and asking questions. You should see her images. She's doing well, right? I'll tell you, Eric, a couple of other cool stories from workshops. Again, as a child and not having money for exquisite trips, I will never forget how moved I was when I saw my first primate. That was a powerful experience. When I first touched foot in Africa for the first time and you know, enjoyed. I went in the rainy season, the green season, which I love way better than the dry. I haven't been there in the dry, but all your pictures look like everything's dead in the background, right? So, you know, being with groups there and getting to see and share first with other clients is always pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, I've had clients that come to you and when they travel with you 5 or 6, 7 times, you know, you're making a difference. I just flew to Florida before my workshop and stayed 3 days with some clients who become great friends. I think that's what this ought to be about. I love having fun, and I've had some clients get aggravated at how much I'm talking or joking or whatever. And I want to say, you know, I think you're missing the point in life, right? It should be fun getting great shots. It shouldn't be so serious that we can't relax and have a good time. So I remember getting bit by my first anaconda. That was a highlight for me, being a herper and loving snakes and reptiles. That was, the local guides were all worried. I'm like, dude, I'm fine. This is awesome. Like, this was awesome, man. I got tagged, you know. Holding my first poison dart frog, because I've kept poison dart frogs in the past. And you don't just go out and hold any species, folks. You need to know what you're doing, and you don't then lick your hand or put your hand on your eye. My first jaguars mating, and we were the only boat there. That was a
Yeah, I
special
saw
moment
that
because,
image.
so often in Brazil, you're just packed around by boats, but to be the only boat and they made it 3 times and stuff.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
incredible.
yeah. And I'll never forget, I had a client, she's been with me a bunch. I give nicknames to certain clients based on things they do. And her nickname for a long time was job security because she could never remember crap what I taught her, right? So I called her job security. She'll probably listen to this and I love you. And she's been with me many times. In fact, she's going with me to Cuba in a few days. But so she came out to Big Bend to learn her camera and she OM system user. And I told her some lighting was probably going to develop in this one spot and we needed to stick around, and we stuck around for a long time. And do you know, she literally caught her first picture of lighting, and then the wind hit, the hail started. We are running back, and it's one of those where in seconds you're drenched to your underwear. And I grab her tripod, I grab her gear, I jump in the car. I lost my Tilly hat. It blew off, never to be found again. And she looked at me just like a wet rat and said, "Oh, man, that was fun." And I was like, hell yes, it was. That was a blast, wasn't it? But for her to get her first shot of lightning,
Awesome.
those kind of things stand out to me. And seeing people get to experience their first. And, I've got that client I stayed with in Florida. A lot of times I like to do night macro walks, and a lot of clients think they'll join you, but they might be too tired at night or whatever. So I go anyways, no matter how tired I am, I'm going. And Eddie's a really good friend of mine and a repeat client many times. In fact, he's going to Cuba too. And I took him out finally on a night walk in Panama, right? And I'm finding sleeping lizards and frogs and toads and insects. And like a couple of weeks later, his wife sent me a picture of Eddie laying on the ground on his driveway photographing a slug. And I was like, mission accomplished, baby, mission accomplished, right? I mean, that's what you want to do, is you want to take your passion, your knowledge, your skills, all your life experiences, and you want to pour it, into someone else. And that's when life is like lived well.
So I got 2 comments. One was photographing turkey vultures. That is the perfect way to learn how to do that, right? We just had a guest on last week, Doug Gardner, and he's a cinematographer. So
Yeah.
we're dealing with manual focus most of the time, right? The way he practiced and got good is he would sit for hours and hours and hours and practice pulling focus on moving cars. So he's not even in, and he's a wildlife guy, right? But he knew the only way he was ever going to be able to judge the speed, the throw of the lens, is something that's consistent and something that is you can just try and try and try, and it worked. So you can't, that immediate success like you were referring to, it just doesn't happen. You've got to put in the time, and you've got to put in the effort.
No. You either got to do that or you got to fake it. Like I busted a guy when someone asked him on the Friends of Facebook, he blocked me too. Friends of Big Bend National Park Facebook page. Someone asked him what his exposure was for night sky image. He said 60 seconds. And I said, dang, man, that's impressive. You're the only photographer basically I've ever known that got sharp stars at 60 seconds. Basically, want to try again, Chief? And he blocked me. I sent him a Facebook message. I'm like, man, dude, you just lose your credibility when you pull that crap, right?
Right.
Instead of blocking me, maybe say, hey, man, you're right. I should be honest, But no, instead you'd rather hide behind your little, because they don't want to lose their fan club. That's what's so pathetic, right? They're worried about maintaining their fan club because they're judging their worth or their quality. And frankly, a lot of his images are overprocessed. They're terrible, but I wasn't even about to broach that with him. Okay. But it was like, come on, man. Like, really, that's what this is all about. It boils down to your freaking fan club. Right?
Yep.
Like, that's depressing. That's sad to be like if there wasn't another person on earth, I would still do my photography. Would have a place to share it. And in my home, I only have let's see here, if I count quickly, 5 images of mine, and they're all taken at the same time for a rainstorm. They're in acrylic right over here. Not because I don't want more. I just don't have the time to get them done and hang them, right? Because so much of it lives up in here as well as on my screen and, flipping through my phone. And if there weren't another person to share it with, I would do the exact same thing I'm doing now, right? So
you should print it. It's so cool to see. There's something about like getting a delivery of like a picture you took. You need to do more of that.
You're right. Brandon, that's 100% right, because this print that I sold for a crazy amount of money, this lady called me up and she said, "Hey, we've been looking at Big Ben photographers and you're our favorite." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And most time I don't sell many prints. People call and ask me for my price. I tell them, and I think they kind of expect our friends discount or anything. I'm like, "No, man, this is my print."
Business.
Right? And so most people don't buy it when I tell them the price. Where I'm like, "That's fine with me. I don't care. I'm not here. That's not my main. That's not what gives me the most joy."
Right.
But there is something about when you see it in print. And this lady called me up and said, "Well, now the image has to be very large." Now, you and I know when you're dealing with most people, a very large image is a foot or two, right? And I said, "Well, okay, how big?" And she said, "Well, the print itself needs to be 8 feet."
Holy
And my
cow.
first response was, "Well, that's going to be very expensive." And she said, "That's fine." And I thought, sweet. So I was leaving on a trip for Hawaii. I came back, followed up. And what it is, and then so my framer is a guy that does all custom stuff in Austin. He literally he cuts the wood, from scratch, everything, right?
Awesome.
And so I got this, and I told her, I said, "Well, it also has to be the right image." And I'll never forget, my aunt came out for a visit in Big Bend. It was probably 108 that day in the flats, right? Which I don't mind the heat out here because we don't have humidity. It really, truly,
It's a dry heat. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah. People joke about it. I'll take 110 here over 80 in Philly any day of the week and twice on the weekends, right?
Yeah.
So well, I happened to stop my aunt. And I said, "There's a giant cirrocumulus cloud blowing up over the Chisos Mountain. Okay, just giant." And I said, "Oh, I got to grab this." So I took my tripod, my camera. I said, "You stay in the car. I'm going to go out here." And I think it's a 28 image. I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 row pano of this gargantuan. It covers the entire mountain range.
Wow.
Took it back, and I knew it was going to be in black and white. When I shoot black and white, I shoot in color, but I know I'm shooting black and white, right? And you shoot in color because you're collecting more data, plain and simple. Yep. So I put it together. I throw it up on Facebook eventually. 17 likes, right? 17 likes. And I didn't have nearly as many followers in, but still 17 likes. No big deal. I was like, "Hey, I love this." So she gave me a list of like 5 of them, and that was on there. I said, "This one would be amazing." She said, "Okay, I trust your judgment." So we're going back and forth about the size, and really it was 8 feet. And then she made the mistake saying, I called her and she said, "Well, my husband's in Baja fishing." And I thought I added another 1,000 to the price. I'm like, if that dude can go fishing in Baja, he can afford another $1,000. No big deal. Yeah, no big deal, right? And I went to pick that up in Austin, and when he pulled that out all framed, my first thought was, now I don't have a wall big enough in my cabin up here in the mountains probably, except if I took up most above my mantle. I don't have a wall big enough for it, but I was like, oh my God, that is really just an absolute thing of beauty. And you're right. It took me back in a way that looking on your computer screen, particularly for panos, it's just not the same. You are 100% correct.
Yeah, it just pulls you in.
Yeah. No, you're right.
What an awesome story.
I already know what images I want. I just don't have, I literally don't, driving it. Well, just, hey, you don't understand. There's so many other things I need to be doing,
Right. Yeah, have you made your Instagram post today? Oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm just making jokes.
No, it's so true. It's so true, man. God, I think I did my Instagram post at 6 something this morning.
There you go.
That leads right into the reason you don't have time is because you've got a YouTube channel, right? And that's one of the reasons.
That's one of the reasons.
You all need to go
a big reason.
Follow Lee's channel because he does some really cool stuff. And I just discovered it this morning. But I love the content. The most recent one, vertical, why shoot vertical? I love that. And I was thinking to myself before this podcast, I'm like, why do I resonate with that so much? Because I get so mad at people in the digital world that cheat. Well, I call it cheating. It's not. It's probably because I had to pay my dues, right? And nobody else has to, and I'm so frustrated about it. But back in the day, if you wanted a magazine cover, you shot vertical. There's no way around it. If you're shooting slides, nobody's going to crop a vertical out of a horizontal back in those days because the quality wasn't there. So unless you shot vertical, but that is not the case today, right?
Not as much. I think you're right and where you're headed.
Yeah. And the other thing that tags right onto that for me too is everybody shoots center. Every subject is right in the center of their image. And they're like, oh, we'll just crop out the composition later. And I'm like, maybe get it right in the camera. And it kind of goes towards the vertical thing too. And I don't know. I listened to yours and it's awesome because you give a bunch of reasons why it's important to shoot vertical. One of them is the panel thing that you just referenced, right? So if you shoot a panel that you want to stitch together and you're doing it vertical, you just get that much more information. You get a bigger slice. There's all kinds of things that benefit that thing. But getting back to your YouTube channel, what is your process in coming up with all these subjects? And I've noticed too, like I told you earlier, I've got a bunch of your videos playing and I just watch them on the side while I'm doing something else. But you'll be in a hotel room. You'll be sitting right where you're sitting now. I mean, you are putting in the work and putting in the time. How's that going for you?
You know, this is what I believe. I believe that God rewards hard work, man. You know, there is something to be said about how you feel about yourself at the end of the day when you've busted your butt for that day doing something good, right? I mean, there's a reason that everybody needs anxiety medication. They're all depressed and, you know, emotionally weak. And I mean, let's be honest, right? They don't want to work. I just don't have soft words for those kind of people. I don't respect them. I feel bad for you because there's nothing better, whether it's physical labor, and I've done plenty of my share of physical labor, or whether it's your passion or when you've busted your butt and you have laid it all out on the line, man, at the end of the day, I want to collapse in bed, right? That's the end of a great day when you just, right? And everybody's like, oh, I can't fall asleep. I'm anxious. I'm worrying about this. I'm worrying about that. Man, bust your butt a little more. Now, and this isn't true for everybody. Bust your butt some more. And you know what? You won't have time to think about those things, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason I decided to ramp up my YouTube, you know, I was a little bit slow getting there because most YouTube presenters I find snake oil hucksters, right? I mean, they still use the gotcha headlines, you know, OM system's going away. And then they spend 20 minutes telling you why it's not. Right. I have no use for that crap. Or smash that like button. Oh my God, I'd like to smash your finger with a freaking hammer, right? and I know some people listen to this probably do that. I don't care. Be you. Be you. If that's truly you, God, I hope not. Be you. Rock on. You know? And I started thinking that my approach is very different than most people. Because I don't give a crap whether you like me or not. I'm not here to, my YouTube isn't going to be designed for people to like me. My YouTube is going to be designed so that they can take that passion, the skills, the knowledge that I've accumulated over the years by busting my butt and pour it into them. And if they want to take it, great. And if not, no problem. I mean, one of my favorite quotes off my YouTube channel thus far was, I just feel like I went to camera church. You know, and I was like, heck yeah. Now, everybody will say, oh, you got to have short videos. Well, you'll notice some of mine are shorter. I have some long ones. I am not going to try to fit a mold on what people tells me needs to be successful on YouTube. I'm going to be myself, and that is what I believe will lead to success. So I am going to want to do that with people that truly want to learn. I'm not going to lie. You know, one of the things that kicked me up a ton was doing the video, moving the OM system. Because that brought a lot of full framers out to poo-poo. And, you know, and I learned your haters will help you just as much as I'm embarrassed to admit this. I learned this from Cardi B. I don't listen to her music, but I remember a clip came up on something. She said, ha, I love you haters. You listen, you buy my music so you can talk bad about it, but I still make money. And I thought, she's on to something, man. Right. And I don't just mean a stripper pole. I mean, that girl is on to something, you know? And I thought, wow, yeah, you're haters. So if I even aggravate my haters, it'll still help my YouTube channel, right? And when I first started, it was going to be more like general nature photography, but I realized, no, my niche is, I know the OM system, so some videos will be very OM specific, and some will be more general that'll benefit any photographer. And I thought, you know, it's going to be a lot of work, but I know I can do it well. Because I've always been very authentic. I've been real, regardless of wherever I've been. I don't, as you can tell from other discussions, I don't value fakeness or inauthenticity. You know, I don't, that kind of stuff just goes all over me. Mm-hmm. And so my video is real. Sometimes I leave blurbs in or my slurry voice at times. I could go back in and reshoot, clean up, but you know what? That's me. Take it or leave it, right? I want it to be good quality. I want it to be very educational, but I don't want to be slick. That's not my thing. And so when I started this channel, truthfully, I thought, I like to educate. It's going to be a ton of work, but let me look at some other channels of monetization, right? Just because you have to do that in this field. I mean, Brandon shared how he was out doing a commercial shoot earlier, and I know what his passions are, and I know this and that, and sometimes we just got to pay bills doing what we do if we're going to do what we love, right?
Yep.
So I realized, man, all of a sudden I think it was after 8 real videos, I had other stuff on there before, but it was just stuff where I was basically throwing a few things. But after 8 consecutive videos, I was able to monetize it already. And I've had
awesome.
$200 tips, and Emily Talpin, an OM System Ambassador, had been doing it for a while, said, Lee, I haven't seen that before. And I was like, cool, awesome, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
awesome. And I know there's probably some people out there get that all time or more. Rock on, man, more power to you. But for me, that was a big deal. And I want people who truly want to master nature photography. This is a little depressing aspect of me on YouTube. You get more views when you talk about gear.
Yep.
Okay. You get more views. I'd probably get more views if I talked about megapixels all the time, because my God, that is apparently what 80% of people give a rat's ass about. I know why you want lots of megapixels, because you have no field craft and you want to crop the crap out of it and not have it look horrible. And you don't know how to adjust autofocus or compose it. I'm not picking on everybody, but I'm picking on some, and you know who you are. And that's not the way I shoot. Like, I busted somebody's shop on Facebook. You know those stupid ads that photographers throw up for affiliate links for Topaz?
Yep.
Don't throw away those sort of quasi bad images. And if I'm in a smart ass enough mood, I'll post on those things and I'll say, this may be controversial, but how about coming and learning from a photographer who'll tell you how to do it right in the first place, rather than trying to make a crappy shot less crappy?
Yeah.
So it kind of that all ties into a lot of things we're doing. I want to teach people how to do it right in camera as much as possible. When you crop a horizontal image to vertical, it still doesn't look quite the same, right? And when you're throwing away a ton of data, like, that's why I laugh when people talk, well, this megapixel has 54, and they're like, how many do you have? I say 21, and by the time you get done cropping, you'll probably be where I'm at anyways.
Or less.
Right? So I want to take people on a journey of discovery, learning, experience, so that their photographic journey is unique for who they are, but nevertheless built upon a foundation of knowledge that I've had the privilege of spending a very long time to do. And it's so funny, how you ask, how do I come up with things? I'm normally a planner, but I travel so much, you can't plan quite as specifically as you'd think. The other night I went out to do a video on the circadian rhythm of natural light. Y'all know what that is? Do I need to explain that a little bit, Roy?
I would explain it a little
Do
bit.
it for the audience, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the circadian rhythm of natural light is when the sun is below minus 18 degrees from the horizon. That's nighttime. That's when your night sky images will be pure black, unless you got a bright moon, which I had the other night, and then it'll be blue, right? So then when the sun hits minus 18 to minus 12 degrees, that's astronomical twilight. You can still photograph the Milky Way, but your sky will for sure be blue. And then from minus 6 to, where did I last finish? Minus 18 to 12. Minus 12 to minus 6 is nautical twilight. Minus 6 to 0 is civil twilight, but overlapping civil twilight from minus 6 to minus 4 degrees is blue hour. And then minus 4 to 6 degrees is golden hour. And then above 6 degrees is daytime, right? So I'm doing this video, and I got up at 3 a.m. to get out on site at Davis Mountain State Park near where I live. And then I drove 3 hours to my second location for the evening shoot. And I got back home about 1 a.m., right? So you're talking a full day to produce one video. And when you're photographing, one of the key field craft techniques is always look behind you. You never know what will be behind you. I have some of my best images come because I went, oh, crap, even though I had something good in front of me, right? So the other night I'm out here, and it was in the 40s, and there were some clouds, and I had a very bright moon. Mm-hmm. And I look back, and there is a full moon bow.
Oh, wow.
full moon bow. And I'm like, oh, mother of God. And I had the OM1 Mark II, which has a live graduated neutral density filter. Good news, in 6, 7, 8 years, some of you Canon and Sony guys will be able to brag about that too, but you'll have to wait a long ass time. So literally you just use your controls and move the line of the filter down. And you can do basically 1, 2, or 3 stop, I think, one exposure value, 2 exposure value, 3 exposure value, right? And I hadn't even got to play with it yet, but I was like, oh my gosh, there's this CCC, WPA built overlook, this beautiful rock structure on this mountain over there in the state park. And I wanted to be able to get more detail out of this beautiful rocks and the structure, but still maintain the moon bow. And I'm like, and who wants to screw with a graduated neutral density filter, putting it on in the night, right? And I thought, oh my God, this will be a perfect experiment. So I turned on live graduated neutral density filter. It has, soft, medium, and hard settings. So I thought, well, let me try this. Boom, boom, boom. So I chose my settings. I take a picture. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Because it held the moon bow back and kept color, but got detail in the foreground. I was like, well, I have to make another video.
Yeah.
So I just start recording, right? Boom, boom, boom. I unfortunately had my Atomos on my camera, so I'm recording the screen and all this. So that's literally how I came up with an idea for a video. It's brutal editing, trying to assemble that, because you can't have video of yourself. I don't want light pollution coming into my picture. So it's going to, I can see this evolving to 2 parts of my channel. One is going to be just the regular videos, but the other, so I have my OM system mentorship program, which is very intense. And then there's the YouTube. And I see something in the middle that'll probably be subscription based, where I walk you through all the menus at some point.
Yep.
And for macro, for wildlife, for birds in flight, for, landscape, night sky, with flash, all these kind of things that really are a lot more in depth, and therefore more work for me, because not everybody can go through the mentorship program. Maybe you can't commit 9 months, but you could subscribe to a YouTube channel paid version that takes you into a lot more in depth. And you're right, man. I in Yellowstone, there'd be days, I'd be getting up at 5 a.m, get back, have dinner, get to the room at 7, and I had to record, edit, and upload a video that night. So, but again, I believe hard work is the foundation of a life well lived. And there's some people that, because of whatever reasons, they can't work hard, injured back. I get that, man. It's not everything. It's certainly not everything, but for those that are capable, I think when you work really hard at your craft, your job, whatever, and you poured yourself into it, then there's a certain reward in life that goes along with that.
100%. So with the YouTube, like the vertical thing, I just love the fact that all that stuff is laid out there. And because like I said earlier, I'm frustrated with people, and I don't know why. I mean, it shouldn't be, because it's just me being me. But when you follow it up with all this other stuff that says, well, this is why, and this is why, and I'm like, oh, he's got it. And, just such good information. And I get frustrated with a lot of these YouTube channels that are actually good and have tons of followers. They are manufacturing an adventure or manufacturing something to go out and do some sort of video. And I'm like, it's so contrived. It's not, whereas kind of what we do or what you're doing, it's the legit. And we're sitting down here with 2,000 subscribers or 3,000 subscribers or whatever. And I'm like, how do you turn the switch? And how do you get these people that are thriving on this? It's not bad content, but it's all how I look at it too, right? So
it's very well planned out. Here's the thing. And again, I'm not bad. I mean, I've watched some of them. I'm not.
They're not bad.
I don't need a teleprompter. Would it make it slicker? Yeah. But you know what? All my life, whether I was, believe it or not, I know it sounds funny. I used to be a pastor, started a church from scratch. I've never done notes. I don't need them. If you master your material, right? Whether it's the Bible, whether it's photography, whether it's crochet, whether it's barbecuing, You don't need a teleprompter, man.
Right.
Unless you want to make it slicker. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Look, there are people that are going to make way more money than I ever will in YouTube being slicker. Rock one, more power to you. But I have to be me. Okay? So, because I'm Southern, you know how we are with sayings, right? I mean, I have these sayings that I say frequently in workshops. One of them is a vertical subject often warrants a vertical composition. So that flowed into a strong video. And for me, I'm wired very weird, particularly for a guy. I'm very logical and I'm very emotional. I have no problem. I had parents that love me, hug me, kiss me, give me one of the greatest gifts in life. My father was emotional and affectionate for me, which probably is one of the best things I ever had in a father. I miss him. And I love logic. And I think when you take those two together and you let that flow, I think people know real when they see real. And I think people know slick when they see slick. And I'm not saying slick is always bad. Like, I don't want to go watch a movie that's done poorly. And I try to do my editing and my sound as good as possible. But I'm on the road so much. Like, don't you want to learn from someone who's actually out there doing it all the time? Like, who gives a rat's ass about a video that's looking at image sharpness using a focal chart on a wall? I will tell that guy that will take his Sony A1 and say, look at this, Lee, that's better than the OM. Come with me, stand at the front of a skiff in the Amazon that's maxed out, and photograph a flying kingfisher. Now that matters.
Right.
That matters. And I dang sure guarantee you, I'll probably beat you every time. Probably beat you every single time in terms of getting the shot. Because you aren't holding, and if I said you have to be at the same focal length and you can't crop, they're screwed. They have no hope. They have no hope of getting it 1,000 millimeters, 5.6, hand holding at the front of a moving skiff, right? I mean, just plain and simple. If we're just honest, plain and simple. So you can expect real. It's not a safe space. You know, I may step on your toes but you know what? I played football, wrestled, ran track, baseball in high school. The coaches who adored me busted my balls harder than anybody because they expected more of me. They pushed me to rise to the occasion. I realize that we're in a world of participation trophies. I don't give that shit out. I don't give out participation trophies.
So do you not want yours at the end of this podcast?
Well, you know what? I think my participation trophy is just getting to be on a podcast with you guys. That's good enough. That's good enough for me. You know what I like about y'all? Y'all let me just roll on and go, oh, my God, probably. Listen, I had a mentor when I was a pastor one time that said, oh, Lee, I never know when you're going to say something I'm going to regret.
Speaking of that, there's a video, the birds in flight and photography from B&H. It was the first one I watched in doing this.
Oh, my God.
And you had just gotten off Jaguars. I don't know if it was the mating pair that you mentioned earlier, but you had been on Jaguars, and he brought that up. And he goes, well, I'm jealous of you because I'm here in New York. And you go, yeah, you probably don't have any Jaguars, but you probably have some Cougars. He just was like, so anyway, we're going to It was amazing. I was dying.
Man,
I was dying.
You know what, dude? There's a problem with being quick-witted and a smart-ass and not worried about whether people like you. It's very listen. Now you know I'm a libertarian, man. I'm all about freedom. You know, you be you and let the chips fall where they may. I'm one of those, like, I know at times probably things I say probably keep me from getting people in a workshop. Okay, a local newspaper editor here, when I posted about truth in captioning. So the post was basically, hey, guys, you know, professional nature photographers and others have agreed upon certain standards. Basically just, hey, man, just be honest. And that was basically what it was. And this local newspaper editor, who isn't from West Texas, he's from, I think, Austin. So those are two very different worlds apart, right? He kind of busted my chops. So I'd been thinking about taking a workshop with you or, a class with you, but yada, yada, right? Basically busting my chops. I was getting on to people who were doing fakes. No kidding. He admitted in the comments that he uses Chat GPT for his articles.
Oh, geez.
Well, of course you don't like the fact I busted someone's balls for being fake. You're generating fake articles. Like, holy crap, is this what journalism is using a computer to generate your articles? And I sent him a direct message. I didn't want to, because he busted my chops in public. I thought, well, let me send you a private message. He blocked me. I'm like, damn right, because I called you out. You're the ultimate fake artist, man. You're out here pretending to be a journalist using Chat GPT. My God, how pathetic, right? Like if again, I'm all about authentic. And you know what? Hey, there's some AI like DxO Pure Raw 4. Brilliant. I use it all the time. It has revolutionized shooting. It doesn't matter what ISO I'm shooting at. Okay. I'll shoot at ISO 25.6 with an OM system. I'll put those images on a magazine cover. No problem. So that's a different kind of AI than saying, well, there's no moose in this picture, but I bet I could put one in there. What I don't get is, where is the personal satisfaction in that? Where's your sense of accomplishment? Like, I just think that's the ultimate and pathetic. And I know some people disagree with me. I don't care. You can be wrong. But it's just sad to me. Like, I don't know. Like, have we gotten so far on the sad side of society that having a personal accomplishment that took hard work and effort and knowledge and years to accomplish isn't worth it? Instead of just taking a click on a computer, oh, look, isn't that great? I don't know. I guess, again, I was raised by educators who taught me that achievement, that hard work, that perseverance, that sacrifice, that failure, that, I like to use words like come up as, well, let me not try that one. Dogged determinism, fortitude, determination. And these are words that the young people, a lot of them don't have it, man. And I'm not picking on all of them. My daughter's ashamed to be in her generation. I think it's really sad that photography seems to be pushing a lot away from that to instant success.
Right.
You want the ramen noodles of photography instead of a great ribeye. And I would encourage nature photographers, listen, your failures are key to you becoming a better photographer. Don't listen to people that tell you it can be easy really quick. That's the snake oil salesman. Right? I mean, being a great nature photographer is as much about learning animal behavior as it is about knowing the technical side of exposure, as knowing about all the detail of autofocus settings, as knowing about how to compose a visually compelling image, right? I mean, there's so much there. That's the beauty of what we do, is it can be a lifetime of learning and progress and improvement, or just skip all that and throw AI image of fake moose with the sunset in the background and then throw it on Facebook for a bunch of likes so that you somehow feel better about yourself. Holy crap, man. Why not put lingerie on a pig and makeup and say how beautiful it is,
My hope is that fake, or that thought of fake, will turn people more towards this type of content, the real stuff, where you are being real and they can tell it's being real and you are not hiding stuff. I mean, it's easy to hide stuff in video, right? We can cut around stuff and you can just totally make everything that's fake. But I think if you're coming across like you come across, I don't think people would question it. I think they would say, what,
whether
this
they
is
like
real.
it or not, they're not going to. That's right. That's right. And because of things that happened to me growing up, we're all shaped by those kind of things. So I don't like someone hiding something. Like, I'd much rather someone come up to me and go, "Oh my God, I hate you. You're such an ass." I go, "Oh, okay. I know where you're at." Right. No problem.
Right.
Or say, "Man, Lee, I love it. I love your channel. Hey, rock on." I mean, I told the guy in the comments on my YouTube channel to kiss my ass the other day. Like, I'm clearly not worried about keeping every single viewer, right? I'm not doing it. Yeah, I would love to have 100,000 followers on there, but I'm not doing it for that. Right. I'm not doing it. That's not my motivation. Do I hope to make money? Of course. I wouldn't be busting my butt for it. But I'm not going to change who I am for an extra 10,000 followers or an extra 500 a month. That I'm not going to sell myself out for that. I'm not going to soften my words so that maybe 3 or 4 more people out there might go on a workshop with me. I'm not a safe space in that sense, right? You're going to have fun. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to get some great images, right? And I value that in other people, even if I don't agree maybe with their stance or their beliefs. That's okay. Be you.
Right.
And I think when you see great images, you can begin to see that person's passion. You can begin to see what drives them, what motivates them, what captivates them. I tell other photographers, don't ever try to mimic or copy other photographers. Learn from them, but allow your passion to flow out of your images, and your images will instantly get better.
Put your spin on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the beautiful thing is YouTube is so big that you'll find your people, right? And your people will find you. And while 15 years ago, the chances of you or I or any of us finding 10,000 people that would like what we are putting out was really, really hard. Nowadays, you can find somebody in Cambodia that is like, I'm drinking this Kool-Aid. This is my people. And then you figure with the worldwide population of 8 billion now, if you can't find 100,000 or 1 million of those that like to drink your Kool-Aid, then maybe you should hang it up. But I think you'll find those people.
Flavor of Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I think those people will
or stop
show up.
stirring it with your hands. Yeah, I'll never be as slick. I mean, I have dreams like I'd love to do a photography show. I know there's a new one out on Nat Geo. My wife's watched. I haven't had a chance to, but most of them, there's 5 minutes of material and 25 minutes of sponsorship, right?
Right.
What I would love to get to is where I could actually afford to have a cinematographer with me going to locations. And like the Pharaohs, I went to the Pharaohs last summer with Elise Bender, who's a Tamron ambassador, and recruited her to Wildside. She's a wonderful lady, awesome lady. If y'all don't have her on the podcast, you should. She's awesome.
No, I think we met her in Texas too. So that's a good idea. We'll get her on.
Yeah. Get Bender and man. Great photographer. Well, she was going to go to the Pharaohs to scout, and she's doing a workshop there for Wildside. And she said, "Hey, Lee, you want to go along? Got some friends coming." I said, "Yeah, I haven't." Believe it or not, I had not photographed in Europe at that point. I'd basically hit some airports, and that was it. And the Pharaohs, I was like, "Oh, wow, let's go there," right? And with the wind and the cliffs, that's what really triggered these workshops of mastering birds in flight. Several times they were standing at this one spot shooting some puffins, and I picked a particular spot because the way the wind was blowing, the puffins were just out of control. You could see them like, shit, trying to come into their burrows. And the way they were coming in at this one spot, the cliff curved. So instead of just the ocean, now one of my favorite shots is a waves crashing against a rock behind one of them. But instead of just ocean all the time, I had flowers and other puffins and green, and it was so cool. And I got to thinking, man, I realize I think about so many things at once that I really need to try to put this into words. It's why I'm writing articles for the Journal of Wildlife Photography. I've got my article coming out for the next issue is Understanding Flight Styles by Birds to help you anticipate bird and flight images, right? So, I was like, well, if I write, if I do video, if I do workshops, people all learn in different means and methods. Yeah. So that'll maximize my audience. And of course, I hope it helps me sell at workshops. But the reality is I'll teach to whoever wants to listen. If it's an audience of 10, if it's an audience of 1,000, if it's an audience of 10,000, that's awesome. Great. Yeah, of course, like anybody else, I'd like to make more money and go on some photo trips by just myself every now and then, and I think that's a part of what motivates me is just realizing that there are so many things that go into my mind when I'm looking at a particular shot. And another one of my phrases is subconscious intentionality. Okay. So what I mean by that, let me grab one of my cameras here. What I mean by subconscious intentionality is that when I go to take a picture, there are a lot of things I do on purpose without thinking about them. And that is, I could hold my camera in the dark away from my body and someone said, change your aperture 1 1/3 stops. I can do that without looking. If someone said, I want you to go to do this in your menu, do this in your playback, I don't have to look, right? But I'm doing it on purpose but it's subconscious. So with live highlight alerts and subject detection, I don't even hardly have to think about exposure. I just do it. I don't really have to think about autofocus. Now I'm focused completely on composition. Like a flying bird, I'm trying to put it where I want it in the image. Now, of course, I can't predict, wing position, which makes a big difference, head position, eye contact. There's a lot of things you still can't predict. But again, it's the advancement of technology that's taking us to where it frees us up to focus more on the creative. While we still think about the technical, it becomes secondary. So once you, my phrase for the OM system mentorship is master your system, master your photography. All right. So the more you master this, the more it becomes subconsciously intentional that you do things. And now we're freed up to think about other things that are every bit and sometimes more important than just some of the technical side, which I love both. I love both.
Eric, you had something, right?
I was just volunteering to go on his trip.
As a cinematographer.
Yeah.
Hey man, listen, I've had two talk to me and I've tried to pitch this idea, because I really think there's a market for, there's YouTube channels. And my YouTube videos are one thing. And I try to be entertaining, but you worry about, I don't cut up like this, as you might notice on my YouTube, because, oh God, even though I don't care, there's still the lingering notion of, well, is it too long? Is it too long? Right. But I get inspired by great cinematography, like Netflix's barbecue special. The Chef's Table was a good one, but the barbecue special one was spectacular cinematography. We were talking before we started recording about The Last Alaskans, and Donnie Vincent's a professional hunter. He's a bow hunter, and he did The Winds of Adak, right? It was basically an hour and a half long commercial for Benelli Shotguns, very high end shotgun company out of Italy. But it wasn't a commercial; it was a film, and all these things kind of inspired me. I'm like, man, I would love to be able to do a cinematic, educational, entertaining, inspirational, and informative photography show. Where you can take people to places where they may go, or take people to places where they might not go, but the stuff would still be transferable to where they do go. That would ultimately be a big dream of mine. I would love to do something like this. And, I've tried doing some things like that by myself. And I was sticking a GoPro on my truck the other day at 75 miles an hour and getting some stuff. But it's a lot of work. I mean, it's a ton of work. And for one person, it's just almost too much. I mean, I'm going to have one that's got a few of those things. I videoed myself talking while driving my truck. You'll see that on the circadian rhythm of natural light video that comes out. But that would be something I think would be an awesome experience to do, and I think it would generate significant revenue, particularly through YouTube. But you got to have people that are saying, hey, well, we're going to work for peanuts for a while. And it's tough. It's tough.
But I think the audience is there, and I think if you did do that, it's something that would rise to the top. And as more and more of people's viewing habits are curated by just their personal interest, and then go find it, you don't have to wait for it to pop up on a channel. That's the kind of rhythm, and people are willing to pay for it. They'll pay $5 a month if they know that they're going to get, and if you can get 10,000 people paying $5 a month. You're done. You can create that kind of content all year long.
All the time. And, I think one thing for me, the whole COVID thing is libertarian was a problem for me. But the good thing that came out of it is Hollywood's gone, man. I mean, there's there hadn't been anything worth crap hardly come out in a while. And I think it's because we realize there's a lot more great entertainers out there than some of them on the big screen making $20 million a film. And one of the things I think it's done is it's given a voice to people who are every bit as talented, if often not more so, every bit as creative, if not more so, but they're able to work with a freedom that doesn't come with the political ideology of Hollywood, that doesn't come with the constraints of having to work for a sexual predator, right? Or all these other crazy things about Hollywood that have freed up, like you guys, great cinematographers and other people, to actually have a voice. And I see I don't see modern television being near the same in another 10 years with what you see available on YouTube. And I think that's a really good thing. I think it's really, I would love to see us get away from the celebrity culture more. And I think that'd be good for all of us. Not that there aren't people that we always look up to or enjoy. Sorry, my one exclusion on my alerts is my wife, and now she's texting me. Right,
she's blowing you up.
Hey, honey, I'll get back to you. I'm doing a podcast, babe.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, let's wrap it up there because somebody's texting you, and we've got so much good information. It's been fun having. I knew it would be fun. I knew we had you on the Wild and Exposed podcast, and that particular episode I didn't do, but Ron and Jason were like, "This guy is awesome," and it's just so much fun to talk to him. So I knew when we're going to get you on that it was going to be a good one. So we really appreciate your time.
Man, I love it. Anytime you want to have me on in the future and we can talk more specifics, but I appreciate the opportunity. I love sharing. You can tell I'm passionate about what I do. So any chance I get to share those kind of things for me is an absolute delight. It's never difficult for me to cut time out for a podcast or a video or an interview or anything like that, because the world needs passion. It needs authenticity. It needs real more than ever. I believe those things are critical for a life well lived and for people to have hope and inspiration. And, again, my personality, I'm not going to be everybody's bag of tea, and that's quite all right. You can find other real and authentic and inspiration in other forms. But for those who do appreciate it, hey, I appreciate you listening to me today, and I thank you for the opportunity, guys, to come on and share with you all.
We need everybody to go subscribe to Lee's channel. The world needs all that, what you just said, but we need the subscribers.
And smash that like button.
Smash that. Boom. Dude, I have promised I said in the video, I promised them, I'll never ask you to smash a like button. I won't ask you to subscribe. And I have. You can watch maybe in some of my earliest before I got serious, right? And you know what? If you love it, you're going to like and subscribe anyways, right?
Right.
And if I have to ask you to do it, then it's not real, man. That's my whole thing. And I don't have a grudge with anybody that chooses to do that. You be you. If you want to be up there and that, the YouTuber that's always up close and he's got it and he's like, smash that like button, man. He's always throwing, I'm like, all right, brother. Yeah. You do you, man. You do you. Listen,
Well, thanks so much. Thanks for watching another episode of our podcast, and we'll see you next week.